Right then. So I got some more charcoal yesterday. That's a sexy box, isn't it? Eh? Look at that. It's got the wow factor. When I showed Jackson, I took it off like that. He went, wow. And that one's a tube as well. Look, and that one's, but it hasn't got so much wow, has it? You know, same arrangement. It's just because it's black. I think it just looks like aftershave, doesn't it? So completely wrong packaging for what we do. This is mass market appeal. This is what you see in a supermarket shelf. You know, just wrong. As a designer, that I'd be ashamed of that. But it's a fantastic looking box. It's a shame it's got charcoal in it. Anyway, so that came yesterday. Apparently, it's willow vine. Oh well, whatever that is, willow vine. See the one on there, obviously. So I've got some of that. Seems to be all right. That's I mean, it's not this stuff, which is my stuff, mainly because it's not bent, but it's okay. It's a bit on and off. I'll just say that about it. Let me talk about that before it gets a bit dark and all of a sudden, let me just make the chair a bit lower. I was toying with something that was a bit bigger yesterday, so I'm planning to do a bigger, more figurative thing. But anyway, so is it art? I often say, the reason why I say it to students, and I had this kind of epiphany, if that's the right word, on a Sunday morning. I had this idea that when I was with someone, it must be 4 years ago now, on a Sunday morning, and I wasn't teaching or anything. I think I was just sort of one of these drawing group things. Don't do that anymore because it's like I just feel it drags me down. To be honest, I looked at how he prepared to make a drawing, and it was precision, and it was stressful because he put this weight on himself that he was about to create art. Not just draw something. He was going to create art, and I said to him immediately that it's not art. It's not. Forget that it's art, because it's either something else or it's more than art. And I just thought it was an interesting thing, because I watched the guy that did Charles. I listened to him talk about it, and really, it's not very. It wasn't eloquent in the way that he talked about it, and I would expect that to be the case, because I don't think that, rationalize it in something, and particularly with something so significant, is a good thing. I think that there is so many other things at play with something like that to turn it into words, to explain every stroke and everything, choice of colour. I think that would have been wrong. So I was quite impressed that he couldn't really convey, although he was, clearly a well-educated man and probably in art terms. I know he does the courses for the BBC and things, but I just thought it was interesting, with something like that. I mean, he would have had the weight of expectation on him because of it, and how that drives, his creativity or not, would have been interesting. The idea that this is going to be, something that's around for hundreds of years, and guaranteed kind of thing, rather than, wait until he's dead and it could be, it's a significant piece of work in terms of the relevance and things. So there's an immense pressure there, which is probably why it took so long to do it. And I did notice that he had a wall full of images of Charles, which from my point of view, I would struggle with that because, bearing in mind what Robert Enright said about the first meeting of the face and all that other subject, and you've got, I don't know, I must have had 200 or 300 face pictures, little sort of avatar type pictures of Charles. And of course, he's been around for long, certainly in Jonathan Yo's The Artist's lifetime. He's been around, and he's a known visual character, for all kinds of reasons. So that would have been difficult, because you got to condense all of that. From my point of view, I couldn't have done it with lots of images. I could have done it with just one, a good one. That would be the chosen image, and that's where I'd focus. And that's probably why he hasn't quite got the likeness, and that's probably why, because there's so many different images of him on a stuck on a wall, and as I say, it's resulted in not a good likeness. But as I said, hell of a task. That's something something you probably wouldn't rush towards. I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, kudos and money and all the rest of it, but that's never a good reason to make art, is it? Or to take on a commission. As Sargent could testify to that. It's never. There's got to be more to it than that. You got to be moved to do it. And that's the thing. If you were. Oh, my cat wants to come in again. Hold on a minute. That's how we didn't send emails this morning. He's looking at me through the window. One day I'll show you what he looks like. If you let me, he doesn't let me pick him up. So there you go, mate. Come on. Yeah, he loves it when the sun shines because he's out and doing cat things and exploring and all the rest of it. But his name's Pablo, and we've had him. I think you probably know this anyway, but we've had him about 3.5 years now. When he came, it was a nightmare. Kept us awake every night, like a baby, And now I love him to bits now. So I would have sold him early on. When somebody keeps you awake every night, it's a man thing. Men can't stay awake at night. Women can. And babies, they can stay awake for weeks. Me, 5 days and I'm done. I can kill somebody after that. But it's a joy. It's a joy now. I think that's the best way to describe it. It brings joy in, as all animals do when you keep animals, but or pets, or animals full stop, I suppose. But anyway, so it's always interesting. I have no opinion on the outcome of that Charles thing. I just think that if that's his response to King Charles, then that's his response, and you should respect that. There's all that sort of tradition and things like that people talk about, and it's not because it's not a traditional portrait. But I don't know what that means. I mean, doing it like somebody else, is that what tradition is? Like traditional, like I talk about traditional execution. Is that doing it like somebody else does it? Is that what? See, Pablo agrees. He's asking the same question. Is that what that means? Just do it like somebody else. And surely the job of the artist is to just respond, and whatever happens, happens. I think that all the rubbish that he suffered, if you want to call it that, the constraints of expectation made it harder for him, which is why it took so long. And I'm sure it would have been a lot easier if he hadn't got that. And then consequently, we've got this fury of hatred towards it, because even with some artists, which is that begs the question, doesn't it? But I think that all things considered, I think he did a good job. But I'm not talking about the production of it and the choice of colour and all the rest of it. I'm talking about the other things, the dealing with the weight of expectations, like I say. And it's just, as I said, it's hard enough. I mean, when I talk about it not being art, and the motives for that was just to take the pressure off this guy that was determined to create art. I think there's a little bit of that's. Hang on, I'm trying to send emails again. Yeah, as I say, it's a difficult one. There's no doubt that when you've finished, it could be considered art. But the kind of the problem I've got with it is that we define art in different ways, depending on all kinds of factors. Not least of all, in terms of Jonathan Yu's position, there is a definition. Hang on, let's do it again. And a way to lock him out. But I think if we've got this sort of definition of what art is, subliminally embedded within our psyche, we're gonna have that, hold that as a goal. This thing about what Peterson said about our art goals and ideals judges, that kind of thing. So when you've got that, it can be a negative, a draining negative. Force on what you're doing, because you've got this ideal that's predetermined, and it doesn't allow for the discovery thing, for you to wander off the beaten track. And that's probably what you want to do anyway as an artist. To wander off the beaten track is probably the best thing you can do, because you're going to maybe bump into somebody that you like, or something, you know what I mean? It's like that you might discover, oh, this wild garlic here, or whatever it is. And we went for a walk the other day and we found wild garlic. So then we didn't know there was wild garlic there because we went off the beaten track. So it's that kind of serendipitous thing that won't happen if you have this predetermined definition of what is going to happen, what's going to, the destination is already determined. So we cannot deviate, and that's the thing. So, and which is kind of like the Jonathan Yu thing anyway. I mean, he's deviated from the path, hasn't he? But the problem is that it's all these. I mean, forget about the normals, the non-artist types, the muggles. They're just going to say, "Oh, we don't like it because it doesn't look like Charles, and it's not. He can't see his uniform, and it's red, and all the rest of it." And they do all the Ghostbuster thing, as you've seen, all that. But they're not artists. Artists wouldn't or shouldn't take part in that kind of ridicule and all the rest of it, because it's not. We all know, as artists, we all know what it takes to make a portrait, and how it can be very difficult at times to do it. It depends. I mean, obviously, when we're doing it for ourselves, it should be completely free and unfettered. It's not. This is the thing about the not thinking of it as art. Sometimes it's not free and unfettered, even when you're doing it for yourself, because you still have this crazy kind of conditioning that's been put there that tells you that it's got to be like this, it's got to be as good as this, it's got to be, all that kind of thing. But I think the idea of, I mean, I talk about this child thing, the sort of curious child in the same kind of context as having no goals and ideals, because a child wouldn't have goals and ideals other than to respond to the world creatively, and they'll be steered by the parents. That's the problem. a lot of children's creativity is stifled by their parents and teachers. So I mean, it's a fact, because the teachers and parents are not necessarily going to be as savvy as they should be in terms of understanding what this is all about. But I don't know. I think that to consider it to be art before you start making the thing is a little bit counterproductive. Well, it's very counterproductive because of as I said, because of this predetermined ideas that we've got of what art is and what it should be. And that, again, that's right back to the Charles painting. So I think it's a good thing. I think if anything, if art colleges aren't discussing this in the right kind of way, and not necessarily the work, because that's probably what they'll be doing. That's what I'm saying about the right kind of way. They'll be considering the brushstrokes and the choice of colour and all that sort of thing, and why a monarch butterfly and all that. Well, that's a little bit predictable. I wouldn't have included that, but as I say, it's how he answered the calling. I don't think it was a brief so much, because it wasn't a case of paint me in this uniform this way. It was a case of paint me, hopefully they're discussing this and on all art teachers should be discussing it and its impact and its relevance and all those other things. How it challenges tradition and really, I think that the good things that will come out of it, hopefully, he did say in the interview that it's different, and that's a great thing to discuss. Different why and different for what reason. I mean, not just in, as I say, not just in the way it's treated, because I don't think that you can have a constructive discussion about art when it revolves around execution, because the craft of art is a completely different discussion to the relevance and the interpretation of art, because that's what you see a lot of these shows where they'll be focused on craft, and that's a completely different discussion to how the art impacts and manifests and communicates and what it communicates, all those sort of things. That's not brushstrokes. It's something else, and I think that is probably one of the best things that have come out of the Charles portrait, that hopefully people will consider it or look past the colour, look past the execution. They probably won't, to be fair. They probably won't. But as I said, I think he's done a good thing, because I think it's progressed things and made people question things and look at things differently, perhaps. But we'll see. As I say, has it been a week? I don't know how long it's been out. Or it's been people have, how long it's been let loose in the wild. I don't know. I think that the press have had a field day with it, or looking for, but then most of the press will be run by muggles, and the presenters are muggles, so they're not going to, they're always going to have a cynical question to ask, which this woman did. It was horrible to listen to her talk. She kept talking about the red, and not biased at all, obviously. So, but then again, bias is something that's ingrained with our media anyway, isn't it? Last time you've listened to anybody who isn't biased, even when they're told to ask unbiased questions, they're biased. You can hear it in the tone. Terrible. Anyway, but as I said, it's fascinating to see the thing develop, and I saw it on all the groups that I'm a member of on Facebook, and that's all. It's like, what are your thoughts and all that sort of thing, and then people just really, I wouldn't say cruel, but there's a level of ignorance, shall we say, that's apparent in these groups that think that actually going to look at it in that context. And yeah, I mean, as I said, I've got I haven't really got an opinion about it one way or the other. I just like the idea that it was this guy's response. Hopefully, is an honest response. You can't tell with something that's taken so long to produce. Normally, you can see honesty in the marks, in the the brushstrokes and the structure of the thing, and things that will reveal themselves. But you can't. It's something that takes so long because the honesty has been buried amongst all the layers of paint. And but I can say it's if that's his response to King Charles, then that's his response, and you got to respect that. That's how it should be, providing it wasn't a contrivance, a deliberate attempt to shock and awe, which is not, there are plenty of contemporaries we know about, contemporary artists that do just that, to shock it, and to create a reaction. But that's not, I mean, there's some of that definitely in that painting, but I don't know. I'd like to think that it was a genuine thing, that it wasn't just a novelty thing, like a PR thing. PR is, that's how PR works. It's a stunts to get attention kind of thing. And there's many artists that do that. Whether you're a street artist or whether you're a well-known terrible infant. But yeah, as I said, I'm kind of glad that he's done it. In terms of portraits, I mean, I think that there is a lot of stuffiness about portraiture, the classical thing, all that. So I think it's good that he's done that, because there isn't anything like sort of Florence about it, is there? You know what I mean? And so that's good. It just means that everybody can now see that it's not just about being able to do it the Florence way, to be able to do the light and the usual sort of blurry lines and all the rest of it. It's not just about that. There's a guy there that's done a significant portrait that is probably going to have a lot more impact than if it was done in the Florence way, Not that there's anything wrong with the Florence. I'm not saying anything about it, I love all that as well. So I'm not really fussed either way. I like the idea of honesty in art. It can be executed in the Florence way or executed as Jonathan Yeo's done it. I don't really care. I just like the idea that all of a sudden people now can see that yeah, I can make a portrait now, and it doesn't have to be that perfectly proportioned, exquisitely executed, traditional sort of looking portrait. So that, for that alone, I think that he deserves praise, because he has, and in such a such a impactful way. Because now, I mean, this portrait is now going to be accessible to every person who wants to make portraits. Whereas before, if you were a student, if you were a child, and you didn't have access. Well, obviously you got access to the internet, but you didn't have access to the right kind of images, because of the way that, say, the search engines are manipulated to present, the norm, for all kinds of reasons, mainly because of stupid algorithms. But you search portraits, and it'll come back with, all the traditionals, from Rembrandt to Sargent, and that is the vision that people will aspire to. But this portrait now, which is completely different to either of those two styles, those two artists, has now reached saturation, I would think, across the globe, which is great, because that's not, they're not having to go looking for that. They'll type portraits now, and maybe they'll get that come back. King Charles come back, and then now all of a sudden, this has opened up a world of possibilities. All of a sudden, I don't have to do it like the masters. I don't have to use some 400-year-old technique. I can do this, and throw paint around and just really respond to the subject. I was going to say challenge or task, but neither of those words are really relevant to what I'm talking about. But for that reason alone, you've got to like the portrait, because that's going to, what's that going to result in? What's it going to, whose fire will that ignite? That's what you're going to ask yourself. Whether you like it or not is irrelevant, but whose fire is that going to ignite? It's just like, from that point of view, artists